This is Breaka Club, a place for kids to create, play games, build their own games, code, explore, and grow. My 7-year-old daughter came home and told me that she wants to learn to code, but that the coding puzzles and challenges that she's completing at school are repetitive and boring. They're a character in a maze, up, down, left, right, repeat. If you're a parent, you've probably seen this before. But my daughter's favorite computer game is Overcooked. So I like to encourage my daughter to sort of think outside the box and do things that are perhaps not what other people would think are possible. I implemented a visual coding editor into Overcooked, and this lets her script a bot. Typically, it's a co-op game, so she can now script the other player and get it to follow recipes. And this is like a great introduction to coding. In fact, the analogy often given for writing software is that it's kind of like following a recipe. Of course, that analogy has limitations in that recipes don't typically deal with parallelism, but there's no introduction to race conditions quite like having a bot throw a bunch of seaweed at you when your rice still hasn't finished cooking. My 5-year-old daughter, on the other hand, her favorite computer game is Stardew Valley, and she told me that she wants to have a pet unicorn in the game. She has a pet chicken, she has a pet cow, but there are no unicorns. There are mods. I could have modded the game similarly to what I did with Overcooked, but I realized that there's an opportunity here to do so much more. My daughter doesn't really just want to have a unicorn. She wants to be able to change the world in whatever way she sees fit. So I spent the next 9 months building a cozy crafting, farming game that is also so much more. It is a place for her to build her own game, and now for you all, or your kids, to build their own games. It is essentially as if Roblox had delivered on its promises to kids and parents. So kids can go in there and actually practically create their own games using the tooling that they already have or the skills that they already have at their disposal. I have a background in working in education companies. I've been head of engineering of a company that social education using Minecraft, and for teenagers, education around entrepreneurship, and then a background in game development as well, and CTO of like a startup that was acquired, and background in lots of gaming adjacent things. Now, I've learnt that one of the worst things you can do for kids is plonk them down in front of an IDE, 3D modeling software, or worse yet, an AI prompt. Now, let me preface this with saying that I'm referring to like younger kids. Older kids, yes, it is. They probably do need to learn how to use these things. But there's nothing worse that you can do for a younger child than just overwhelm them with something that they can't make progress on. My 5-year-old daughter, when she said she wanted a unicorn, she wanted a unicorn. She didn't want to sit there and code something and 3D model a unicorn and spend days and days doing it. So the way that she puts a unicorn in my game, she draws a unicorn, she takes a photo of it, she's got a unicorn, it walks around. Now, the way that works is with these templates. These are essentially a no-code way of creating games. The templates sort of act a bit like QR codes here in the corner. They're not QR codes, they're April tags. And they essentially imbue the picture with functionality. So we can have trees that you draw a tree, but when you hit it, it's going to drop some wood. And we can have animals so they know to move around and, give milk if you click on them and whatnot. So this is a way of giving kids the satisfaction of building a game using the tooling they've got. But you do want kids to be extended and to be able to explore. And creativity isn't really something you can push upon kids. So the intent here is that you play your way through this game, and progressively you're exposed to, and depending on the rate at which kids explore, they'll be exposed to more and more complex ways of creating things. Initially it's coloring in, then it's drawing your own things, and they're going to get to the point where that functionality that I was talking about, those templates, they're going to outgrow those templates. And that's the best way to educate kids and to give that sense of passion about learning, because you want them to feel like they have outgrown something so that they are motivated to pick up something new and to learn that new skill set. So kids will reach the point where those templates aren't enough and they essentially want to program their own functionality. Even then, you don't go straight to an IDE and plonk them down with all the complexity. you do something like that overcooked scripting language that is more domain specific. You give them a domain specific way of achieving what they want to achieve, and they will then reach limitations with that, as tends to be the case with domain specific languages. Then they can be introduced to a general purpose language. This is the way to educate kids without forcing this information at them and making them upset about the situation. You want kids to feel passionate about this. So I am rolling out a bunch of physical clubs for kids to use this software and to have community-run clubs. Now, one of the things I also want to make clear about these clubs is they don't have to use this software. In fact, they don't even have to do digital. It's not just digital creativity. If kids want to do arts and craft in these clubs, if they want to make films, if they want to make animations or whatnot, they're quite welcome to do that. In fact, I also even have some additional software for that it's like an app that kids can play their own videos on their TV, because there's nothing quite like the satisfaction of like going in and picking the show for a kid in the same way that they would on Netflix. They can see just their own library, go in and click on one of their videos and it plays on their TV, rather than just showing their mum and dad at dinner on a 4-inch phone. If you would like to enroll your kids in one of these clubs, please fill out the form. Even better if you're a parent who would be interested in leading one of these clubs. The idea is that these are community-led clubs. We're not going to, it's not a course. We're not going to dictate what clubs do on the day-to-day. We provide training to the club leaders and obviously the tooling, the software, and of course there's a vetting process. But we want clubs to be able to sort of self-organize. Again, it's about that exploration and giving kids a sense of like, we want the kids to be empowered. These are the kids' clubs. These are not our clubs. So if this is something of interest to you, please fill out the forms. Let me know. And if you have any horror stories, even that you'd like to share, or just general feedback, like I've sent my daughter to a coding club in the past, and it was awful, and the club was like so bad it was shut down. So any horror stories you want to share, please, that too.